Hey everybody, this is Eric Frankhouse, the GM for the Shadow of the Arena stream. This is Behind the Seal, episode 4. I've got 2 more episodes left. One is premiering tonight as I record this. Man, this has been a ride. So episode 4 was a little different. 3 carried into 4. I wasn't particularly expecting that, but because of how the chariot racing went on the flooded arena and the coral arena, I really felt it deserved more time. So we carried into the next one, opened the next session in episode 4. And episode 4 was crazy. Like, the cannon on the ship, Grum climbing up and using that, with Belissa showing up out of the hold to assist, that little verbal jab conversation between them. On top of that, the race going around, Zox almost getting destroyed on the lower half of that second lap, I think it was. And as we're leading up, going into intermission, I knew that I needed to find a way to wrap this up. So I asked the audience, like, hey, do we continue this race through the whole episode, or do we change scenes? And they voted change scenes. So I brought in what was going to be the end of episode 3 into the end of the first half of episode 4, with the cannon striking the wall. That was Grum's fault. I didn't plan that. And some cards played. And then another ship crashing into the west part of the arena and causing leaks and water to flow out and a whirlpool to form. And then they slowly started running their way back to one area to get out as flesh rakers were coming up and pulling people underwater and murdering everybody. Even on that, I think it was the second lap a flesh raker was chasing. The sharks were jumping from chariot to chariot during the race. That was a lot of fun, using these like glaives on chains to hook and pull themselves. And they can swim just as fast, if not a little faster than the chariots, but in order to complete a lap, you have to be on a chariot at the end of that lap. So I kind of planned all that out. The Clockworks, what are they called? The Claytons, I think is what the name of that group was, didn't last that long. I was hoping they would get into a better fight, but with one of our players missing, Sylviak was missing, I had to find a way to do this, and he ended up getting preoccupied with one of the Clockwork, and then a Flesh Raker pulled him under, and he had an underwater combat, and that was my way of pulling him away. I'm going to ask KC, if he wants to say he died and came back, or if he defeated it. It's his choice, just his story, his choice. Since he wasn't here to be on camera, I just ran with it. But that distracted Flesh Rakers, meaning I put a little less of them in the arena. The Slurg going around also was really entertaining. Slurg kind of made his way, the goblin, around the bottom part of the track, and Grum was just firing cannon shot at those coral arches, collapsing them. Nuts. But the 2 Deep Lords boarding the small ship and chasing, so much fun. I was expecting them to careen into people and cause damage, and when everything went, sideways, and the players started bailing and finding ways out, I asked each one how they get to safety, and if someone couldn't come up with a good reason, I was going to give them extra banes. That's kind of how I'm handling it. And I've realized, well, let's get into the GMing part of this. I've realized running this on stream with the crowd having cards to play, I have to ramp everything up 1 bane. So if something is 1 bane, normally I make it 2. Because in this, and then I have to also judge how many people are interacting from the audience, from the crowd. Because if I make something 2, but no one's giving out, any form of fortune or any form of boons to people, I'm making it too hard. So there's this weird balancing act. I have to kind of watch numbers and see how many interactions we have. But I've learned that if I just ramp it up 1, because the system's so elegant, with everything just being a challenge of 10, or challenge versus like an AC or a will save or will number, it's really easy to scale. I love it. And it went well. And then when everyone kind of made their way around the arena, as everything was pooling out, I had them make some perception checks, some pivotal ones that they failed. And they don't watch this, I don't think. So if you do, you close your ears. Blythe had a seal on the bottom of the arena, and I think I explained it at the end with the merfolk vampire. He was taking the blood from all the dead in the arena and giving it to himself. And I'm hoping that the players are starting to realize Blythe has a big ulterior motive. Zox probably has the best chance of figuring it out, and I'm hoping you, as the viewers, have started to realize that Blythe is taking out Lannistas and Dominus over and over. He's obviously trying to achieve a grand goal. I mean, for fuck's sake, he's got the Demon Lord seal on his stomach. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. So they go in through the entrance on the north part of the arena into safety, and they meet the surgeon, they meet the advisor and some of the guards. And they try to force their way past. I keep trying to explain, then go left or right at a T. Left is where the Lannistas and Dominus are going to exit the arena. Right is where the gladiators are going to get healed and patched up. But they're trying to force their way through the door, enough to where Slurg stuck in behind and pulled a knife, but failed his attempt to try to assassinate this advisor. And they come to the conclusion that maybe forcing their way through isn't the best idea. If Soviak was there, if Matt was there, I'm sure they would have just bulldozed to the door, which would have just turned into the vampire fight instead of what it did end up turning into. So they finally get their shit together, head right, go to the area, which is a waiting room for the surgeon. The artwork from the surgeon is from one of the Rob Schwab books, and it's awesome. The guy in the mask holding the knife. I love that picture. It's the Victorian love that I have that reminds me of a lot. It's just something about it. And I love masks. If you can see this wall, it's got a bunch of them. So they start talking, and I wanted to have another social scene since we've had almost 1.5 combat scene. I'd say one full one of combat with the chariot racing. I wanted to make sure they had a chance to do social. So the Sharkmen, and I think there was a Clockwork in there and maybe a Deep One, but the Sharkmen were interested in discussing with them because they are actually workers of the owner of the Coral Arena, which is, they find out later, is Pharaon, which is a merfolk vampire. And I asked if anyone was still wounded when conversations were going on, because if there's blood in the air, the Sharkmen have a really hard time holding a solid conversation. And if that blood isn't there, they are easier to talk to. They start in a different position in the social scale. And one of them was injured, so it was a hard roll. And I think it was Grum and Zox together talked the Sharkmen into getting them audience with the proprietor of the arena. And they got patched up, sent down, and they walked down into this coral underground ruins. And what all that artwork from that was from a Roll20 map pack. I think maybe 2, the Deep something, and then I think it was called Merfolk. And that's what made me decide this vampire originally was going to be, oh gosh, what was he going to be? I think I was going to have him be an orc, because orcs are freed slaves in one part of the land. I wanted him to be this vampire that's rising up, but something about a merfolk vampire just sung to me. I don't use him that often. You don't get a chance to. And how would he own an arena? It all fit together perfectly with that coral aspect of it. And all Taran's art we got to use for the creatures. I'm going to use those in another game. Absolutely. The fact I got to find a way to build a coral arena, a chariot race around water for it was great. So now they've got audience with this man, and that was at the end of our session. We decided we were going to talk about how this was going to work and what it was going to look like. Boy, man. We started the conversation, and the merfolk comes out of the end next to these ruins, and there's names on the wall of people who've died. They're gladiators with fame behind their names. And I think someone picked that up in the episode, if I remember, filming a little longer afterwards. But I think one of them picked that up. And I wanted them to have to make a blood pact, almost like thralls or ghouls, if you played Vampire the Masquerade at all. I'm actually running a 5e Masquerade, and I love the idea of them being ghouls by drinking his blood and being tied to him. And what that does is anytime he wants to dominate them or force them to do something against their will, they're going to have Banes to their roll. They could try to break it, but they have Banes. And just like social combat, where you have those steps, I think I'm going to use their composure score as the damage it deals to them to force them to make actions. Should be pretty. It makes a lower hit point pool, so it happens faster. I like the concept for it. So they take the deal because this merfolk Pharaon Teos is offering them the ability to finally assassinate and kill Blythe, and they've been offered that a couple times now. I mean, this man. Let's look back at what Blythe has done. He took over the original arena they were a part of. They first had Zox cut the legs off Alvarex, and then murdered everybody in that area when they took it over. Then they tried to auction them off, had Belissa eaten or served as a live meal during the bathhouse episode 2. Then he fled that area when all chaos broke out because a crowd member played the Beast card. And then episode 3, he was in the audience trying to get other Lannistas to join him and Dominus to join him in something. And then Zorbier is found dead, and the merfolk in this scene has his head and he throws it out. Now, I don't think he's really saying he killed him or not, but just that Lannista is dead. I mean, they've been through hell and back with Blythe, when all they were really trying to do is be gladiators, but they've been enslaved twice, and now they're dominated by a vampire. They don't know really what they're getting into, but they want this man dead, so they took the blood pact. So I'm going to play with that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I've learned GMing this group, you really got to go fast. You have to make sure, like, the scenes are quick, people are interacting. I try to come back out of intermission and roll us in if we have any like things that we need to do a recount of what happened. If there's enough people there to have some cards played for favor. And I like the cards. I really have been enjoying them. Looking back, it's too late now. We only got 6 episodes, 2 left. I would change how they function a little bit because they hit me constantly, even with the cooldown timer. And I want them instead to be more like a pool, like bits work, where everyone throws some in, and there's a way to do fractions of cards in Streamloots. And I think with those fractions of cards, we can have them build up to bigger moments where I don't know, maybe they create an NPC, or they can do a scene change, or whatever. But there needs to be a different rarity in how they affect play, and I've learned that running this. But they're still a riot, and to be honest, people purchasing those cards helps fund this group to be able to do what they want. So it's like a really good give and take. But I feel instead of just taking bits from people, we are offering a way to interact with the crew. So now, episode 5 that we're doing tonight, which is Wine in the Streets, I think is what it's called. Last episode was called Blood because we gave out vampiric dice, which are getting re-given out, because the guy who won it already won. So he's like, no, give them out to somebody else. So we're going to do that probably at the beginning of the stream. But I'm curious to see if this Pact of the Vampire goes well and how they do this. And I have a really cool storytelling mechanic that I want to do that I use when I run Blades in the Dark, using flashbacks, but I want to use it for how they're setting up this alley scene to jump Blythe. And this alley scene is going to be not just like him walking through alleys. This guy doesn't do that. There's a reason they are going to be there tonight. Well, in episode 4, or 5, whenever you watch this. So for me, I've had a blast running this, and we only have 2 episodes left, so I'm going to try to go out strong with some craziness. The final part of the episode we just did really showed me that we have some social people in the group that can handle social conflicts. So I want to start up and give them that the next episode. I've also learned that combat is brutal. Health is lower than D&D and Pathfinder. And I've run a lot of shadows, but not in quick succession like this. And I hope you guys have been enjoying it. If there's stuff for Behind the Seal that I'm not answering, let me know. Maybe I'll compile all the questions, and after everything, I'll do half of the last Behind the Seal answering your questions. But yeah, put them in the comments below on YouTube. Ask me on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you find me. I'm under Eric Frankhouse everywhere. I'm not pimping any of the stuff I'm doing really in this, just the show. And this is to get my thoughts sorted out before I go into the next episode. That's usually why they're recorded the day before, or the day of, in this case. But that's it from me. I hope you're enjoying Shadow of the Arena, and hope you're enjoying Behind the Seal, kind of a GM peek. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed, but I don't think so. A Coral Arena, that was just a riot. I love the chariot racing. Really enjoy that mechanic and the social interaction. But that's it for me. I'm excited. We're going to have KC back this week. We're going to have a full group amongst all the crazy going on in the world right now. I hope this is a little bit of a relief from you having to be serious all the time and being able to maybe enjoy yourself for a night, because we all deserve that in the pandemic and what is going on right now. That's it for me, everybody. Really, that's it for me. And behind the seal, and I'll see you in the arena.